Good morning, children. In the previous class, what we have discussed? We have discussed about series combination of cells and parallel combination of cells. What is meant by series combination of cells? Series combination of cells is nothing but the positive terminal connected to negative, negative terminal connected to positive. Alternate terminals are being connected such a connection is known as series connection. What is parallel connection? All positive terminals connected at one end, all negative terminals connected at other end. Such a connection is known as parallel connection. And also we have discussed about activity 1 and 2 in the CBSE textbook, children. Today we are going to learn about the topic the kinds of charges. What are the different types of charges we have? What are the different types of charges we have? This belongs to only IIT textbook, children. So what are the different types of charges we have? This we are going to discuss today. And also we are going to discuss about law of conservation of charge. This belongs to IIT textbook concept 1, children. IIT textbook concept 1. Today we are going to discuss only IIT textbook, children. IIT textbook concept 1. In these types of charges. So Dr. Gilbert, the scientist by name Dr. Gilbert, he told that charges can be developed. Different types of charges. Charges can be developed on substances by rubbing one substance with a suitable substance. That you remember, children. Charges can be developed on the bodies. I repeat, charges can be developed on the bodies by rubbing one body with a suitable body. For example, you take glass rod. Glass rod should be rubbed with a suitable substance. Which is suitable? That pair also given. Silk cloth. If glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, what will happen? We'll see. Next, other combination is ebonite rod. What is ebonite rod? It is nothing but a material which is made up of a vulcanized rubber, high quality vulcanized rubber. So, ebonite rod is a material which is made up of a high quality vulcanized rubber because of vulcanized rubber. Next one is ebonite rod, which should be rubbed with cat skin or fur also you can take. Fur you can take or cat skin also you can take. So, this is one of the suitable material which you can rub with ebonite rod. Okay, children. Now suppose you rub glass rod with a silk cloth. I have taken a glass rod. And I rubbed this glass rod with the silk cloth. Now I suspend this glass rod. Glass rod I have taken. I rubbed the glass rod with the silk cloth. Next, I have taken one more glass rod. Which is rubbed with the silk cloth. This is also glass rod only. I rubbed with the glass rod and I brought it. Both what will happen? Both will repel each other. Both will move away from each other. I repeat, children. Glass rod I have taken, I rubbed with silk cloth. And I have taken another glass rod rubbed with silk cloth. Both I have suspended and I brought near each other. Then what do I observe? I observe that both will repel each other. Then what happened to them? When glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, they are being charged. Both got charged. How this charging take place? We'll see in further explanation. Next, you take ebonite rod. Rubbed with fur cloth or a cat skin. This is ebonite rod. And also, you take another ebonite rod which is being rubbed with the same procedure like fur. Now, if you bring both of them each other, then they will also repel each other. Why they repel each other? When the ebonite rod is rubbed with the fur cloth, ebonite rod and fur both got charged. Okay. Suppose you take glass rod rubbed with silk cloth. And ebonite rod rubbed with fur cloth. If both you brought near each other, then what do you see? You will see that they will get attracted. So what do you observe from this? What happens here? Here also they got charged. One thing you remember, children, when you take glass rod, when you rub this with silk cloth, what is happening there? When you take a glass rod, when you rub it with the silk cloth, what is happening there? Rubbing movement is happening over there. Because of this movement, what will come into existence? Frictional force will come into existence. So when you take a glass rod, suppose you might have known, when we rub the two palms together, we'll get heat due to frictional force. Similarly, glass rod we have taken, we are rubbing with the silk cloth. When you rub it with the silk cloth, due to frictional force, there will be charge transfer from glass rod to the silk cloth. I repeat, children. So here what will happen? A glass rod rubbed with the silk cloth. Due to frictional force, there will be a charge transfer from one body to the other body. Generally, in this combination, the charge moves from glass rod to silk cloth. That is, electrons get transferred from glass rod to silk cloth. And as the glass rod loses electrons, it will become positively charged. As the glass rod loses electrons, it will become positively charged. As the silk cloth gains the electrons, it will become negatively charged. I repeat, children. When glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, glass rod loses the electrons and that silk cloth gains the electrons. Here you have to remember, children, only transfer of electrons only will take place. Whenever I say positively charged, it doesn't mean that no way linked with protons. Only the thing you have to remember is, we are talking about transfer of electrons which are present in the outermost shell. We are talking about the transfer of electrons which are present in the outermost shell. I repeat once again. When glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, due to friction, there will be a charge transfer take place. How the charge will go? The outermost electrons of glass rod will enter into the silk cloth. As the glass rod loses electrons, it becomes positively charged. Because electrons will be less, protons inside it will be compared with its protons, electrons will be less, as it lost some of the electrons, and hence it is positively charged. Now, when you take silk cloth, electrons are gained. When you compare with its proton number and electron number from the previous case, extra electrons has joined in silk cloth, and hence it is negatively charged. Similarly, when you take with ebonite rod rubbed with fur, due to friction, here also charge transfer will take place. Here, the fur will lose electrons and becomes positively charged. Fur will lose electrons and becomes positively charged. Ebonite rod will gain the electrons, will become negatively charged. Will gain electrons and negatively charged. Now see, fur will lose electrons. When it loses electrons, what will happen when it's compared to the stage? The number of protons inside will be more compared to the electrons, as electrons are lost, and hence it is positively charged. When you take ebonite rod, electrons and protons always will be equal in number. It has got extra electrons. As extra electrons are gained, the number of electrons will be more, and hence it is negatively charged. Now come back here. This is positively charged. This is also positively charged, and hence the repel. This is negatively charged. This is negatively charged, and hence the repel. Here this is positively charged. Here this is negatively charged, and hence they attract. Such kind of making the bodies to get charged is known as electrification. What do you call this? Charging the bodies by rubbing like this is called as electrification. Once again, the method of charging by rubbing the bodies against each other, in this method be known as electrification. This electrification here we say, for glass rod we say it is positively electrified. For glass rod we say it is positively electrified, positively charged. For ebonite rod we say it is negatively electrified, negatively charged. Silk cloth, negatively electrified, negatively charged. For positively electrified, positive charge. So this electrification can be done in different ways. one of the way is by rubbing against each other, that is due to friction. This is only one of the methods, children. There are still more other methods which you will learn in the further classes for the higher standards. So electrification can be done in different methods. One of the method is due to frictional force, like this, in this way, children. So here what do you understand? You have transfer of charges. But remember, children, here carefully, the glass rod will lose a certain number of charges. The same number of charges will be gained by the silk cloth. That is, for example, if you consider a set as glass rod and silk cloth as a set, we call it as a system. We consider it as a system. How many electrons the glass rod lasts, that will be gained by the silk cloth. How many electrons the glass rod lasts, that many electrons will be gained by the silk cloth. That means, if you consider it as a system, the number of charges, the number of electrons present in the system always remains constant. It is known as law of conservation of charge. Law of conservation of charge. What is meant by law of conservation of charge? Conservation means remains constant. What does law of conservation of charge says? If you consider a particular system, the number of charge carriers, the number of electrons which are present over there remains constant. With this I have completed, children. Once again I will try to repeat this. Try to concentrate, listen carefully and go through your IIT textbook for better understanding, children. So what we have learned in today's class, we have learned about types of charges. Types of charges, we have two types, positive charge and negative charge. Dr. Gilbert is a scientist who told about that if substances are rubbed with suitable substances, then the substances get charged. So he has taken a set of glass rod and silk rod and ebonite rod and fur. So what happens to the glass rod when you rub with silk cloth? Glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth. Due to frictional force, glass rod will lose certain electrons and the same number of electrons will be gained by silk cloth. Thereby, the glass rod becomes positively charged and silk cloth becomes negatively charged. Similarly, when you take ebonite rod rubbed with fur, then what happens? Ebonite rod will gain certain electrons from the fur cloth. Fur will lose the electrons, ebonite rod will gain the electrons. Thereby, fur will become positively charged, ebonite rod will become negatively charged. Such a process of charging the bodies by rubbing due to frictional force is known as electrification. Electrification can be done by the frictional force. This is one of the methods. There are so many different methods also. This is one of the methods how the bodies can be electrically charged. This is rubbing method, that is due to frictional force, is one of the method of electrification. In this case, we say glass rod is positively electrified and silk cloth is negatively electrified. Ebonite rod is negatively electrified and fur is positively electrified. Now, when you suspend glass rod and glass rod, we observe repulsion. Ebonite and ebonite, we observe repulsion. And glass and ebonite, we observe attraction. What is the conclusion of all these activities, what I said now? This is same charge. This is same charge. This is opposite charge. That means like charges, when you take like charges, like means same number, like charges repel. Like charges repel. Unlike charges attract. What happens to the unlike charges? Unlike charges means positive, negative. They will attract. This is the conclusion of this, children. So what is the conclusion of this? Like charges will repel, unlike charges will attract. And we have in the last one is law of conservation of energy. What does it mean, law of conservation of energy? So law of conservation of charge, children. Law of conservation of charge. What does it mean, law of conservation of charge? Suppose we are rubbing glass rod with the silk cloth, then if we consider this as a system, glass rod will lose the charge, silk cloth will gain the charge. The number of charge carriers, the number of electrons lost by the glass rod, gained by the silk cloth are equal and same in magnitude, and hence the whole system, if you consider, the number of electrons, the number of charge carriers remains to be the same. This is known as law of conservation of charge. I hope you understood, children. Go through your IIT textbook for better understanding. If you have any doubts, you can call me and find out, children. Thank you, children.